So 2024, how was your Christmas, William?
It's pretty good. Pretty good. Not too many inspections, but I've been doing a couple.
Well, hope you had a happy new year. No ski trip between Christmas and New Year's this year.
No.
Not much snow either, though. So,
Yeah, and we missed the crowds too, so that's not too bad.
yeah, no snow, lots of crowds. I think that would have just been a party at the lodge the whole time. So, hopefully, this recent storm is kind of given a good base and we can get to Utah or Colorado here in the next few weeks. But putting that aside, let's talk about some inspections findings that you brought us today.
Okay. Now I know I said I didn't do a whole lot of inspections, so I did digging and did inspections I've did in the past couple months before we started this podcast. And we're going to talk a little bit about primarily fireplace, chimney, and HVAC.
Okay.
Got a little bit of framing here today, and then some other plumbing stuff and leak findings as well. So.
Good. I've been looking forward to talking about this topic, especially this time of year. Everyone's firing up their heaters and their fireplaces, and this is, early January. So this is great stuff.
Yep. So we got a fireplace here, and the first thing I noticed was all the soot on the facing on top of the brick.
Well, it's black. My first knee-jerk reaction would that be, maybe they turned it on and had the damper closed, but that's not always the case, is it?
It's not always the case. Well, I've also seen an agent, because I know we don't light fireplaces when we're doing the home inspection. That's a level 2 chimney thing.
Right.
But I've also seen agents light the fireplace with the gas all the way turned up, and then it goes out onto the face as well.
Even with the flue open.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just because it ignites way too much gas at once. And but typically we don't know that because we don't light them. When I see this, where my brain goes to first is that this is a drafting issue.
Yeah, absolutely going to be a drafting issue there. I mean, if you look at it real closely, you can see the brick looks like it's been deteriorated, or like the heat's affected some of those bricks right above the opening of the fireplace, and it's all black. That's an unsafe condition, and that fireplace should not be used, and they should have a level 2 chimney inspection on that.
Of course.
And if you look at it, look at the size of those logs inside the fireplace. That is too much fuel.
Yeah, way too much.
Fireplace is not big enough to put that many logs. If you just start burning that, that's probably also why it might not be drafting correctly. They're burning too much wood at once.
Yeah, that's a pretty shallow fireplace. So,
yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's go to the next. I try to organize them a little bit better here for you guys here today. So, next we got a potbelly fireplace, as I call them. These are very hot. This was an inspection I did where it's just the living room, and then on the way up you have a loft, and that's where the sleeping area is.
Yeah, you're supposed to have clearances for that hearth. See how it's on top of a raised brick area?
Yes.
And how it's really far away from the wall. You got to have a lot of clearance for those things because, as you said, they do get really hot. But if you look at the front of that, the hearth extension, or I guess you say it's sitting on a hearth, but that whole platform that it's on there with all those bricks, it's pretty shallow right next to the opening of that firebox. So that's inadequate.
Pretty shallow. I think they need, 3 feet all the way around?
Yeah.
And they're supposed to even have a masonry wall if they're in the corner.
It actually doesn't even have adequate clearance to the wall. That wall, I think it's 48 inches to the wall.
Yeah.
But that thing does not have adequate clearances for sure.
Also, if you look at the very top where it goes through the ceiling, there's no boot protecting the drywall.
It just goes right up to the drywall, and that flue gets hot.
Yeah, very hot. This thing can heat up the whole place. And now what was most concerning to me is that if the tenant, because this was like a duplex situation, the tenant in here, their sleeping areas, the only way to get to the sleeping area is essentially that ladder behind it.
So you got to walk around this thing when it's just kicking.
Yes, you got to walk around it. That's a
be
wooden combustible ladder, and there's no other way of exit if you're sleeping and you have this thing on all night and that ladder catches. It's a very dangerous condition.
Yeah, so there's some things that need to happen here. It's going to be pretty expensive to correct this. So.
Yep.
Ooh. Ooh.
So we got a flue for what was most likely a prefabricated fireplace here. and it looks like it's been disconnected right at the sheathing boards where it goes
It
through
looks
the roof.
like it is not going through the roof at all. In fact, it looks like the roof has been. It looks like it's been sheathed right over. It's not. There's not even a hole there anymore, is there?
No, there appears not to be actually. And
Yeah.
they're using it. It's like that one fireplace I showed you a couple.
Yeah, you do not want to skip a home inspection because,
No.
I mean, unless you're going up in the attic and you have inspection skills, you're not going to catch this. And you potentially are putting yourself in a very harmful position. You can go to sleep at night, leave your fireplace on, and your house could catch on fire.
Yeah, and I want to mention it doesn't matter if your house is new. I've inspected new construction where the builder was actually there, and I mentioned this to him, and the guy that he was like, I don't know, I have my guys, and the guy acted like he did connect it, and he was dumbfounded when he found it that it was disconnected
Yeah.
on new construction.
Yeah, you can see this is heating up the wood already. I mean, some of that wood's looking pretty dark. I don't know if it's getting some embers on it or not, but that's not just soot. That's from heat.
So what we call this reaction actually, it's called pyrolysis.
Pyrolysis.
Yes,
Right.
and essentially what that means is that there's a certain temperature that wood burns at, but pyrolysis is hitting wood over time with high heat, and it actually brings that burning point down.
Right.
So the temperature comes down, and over time it will ignite.
So it's just like a glow right on the
I think
wood, but it doesn't.
452 degrees is the burning point.
Yeah, that's
of
pretty
wood.
high. I mean, that's hot.
And it would come down lower over time.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah. Yep. Very much like charcoal.
Next, here's another disconnected
Yeah,
chimney.
you like that one,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, that's a
So
good one.
what happened here is they put a new roof on this house. You can see all the new wood. You look across out that little hole opening there. You can see next door. This is not a new neighborhood. That was not a new house.
No.
That's an older chimney. So they put a new roof on this house. And when they put the new roof on, they just knocked off the chimney and never put it back.
Yeah.
And
A dead giveaway. This is the older chimney, by the way. Is we don't really install masonry chimneys anymore.
well,
especially
not
this
here in
extent.
California, but in some other places in the country and in the world, they still do those.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they do. Yeah, they do. That's a California thing.
That's a California thing. Okay. Well, yep. I mean, I think the proper call here would be, I think I would go with a general contractor instead of a chimney specialist. Maybe a chimney specialist to add brick and mortar.
I would go with a chimney specialist and a chimney contractor because that chimney either needs to be capped off correctly and sealed up, or they got to extend it up through the roof.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Okay. I think that's it for chimneys. Now, this was a home I inspected a few months ago. And when I was in the crawl space, for those of you that don't know, what we're looking at here is a cripple wall. And this cripple wall is on the exterior of the home, and it is leaning. Now, I believe I recommended a structural engineer on this home because of how severe it was. And it was an older home, and there were more problems than this. But
So William's inspecting in. Hold on. Go ahead, William. Go ahead.
yeah, you can take over.
Okay. Well, William is inspecting in Southern California where we have a lot of earthquakes. And so this condition here was probably most likely caused by earthquakes making the house rock back and forth. Unless, did they build a second story on this and increase the load or no?
I don't remember correctly. I don't believe so.
Okay.
But
So then this was probably due to essentially shearing or the chimney being rocked back and forth on that cripple wall.
the chimney, you mean the structure?
The structure, right? The cripple wall.
Yeah. And basically, what tells me this was most likely by an earthquake is you see how the cripple wall shifted. Typically, when there's an earthquake, homes don't really sway; they shift left to right.
Right, and they don't always go back to where they started.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I thought an engineer was a good call for this.
Yeah, definitely you need a structural engineer for that.
So this is another home. This was a long time ago, a few months ago as well.
So this is an old house, I'm guessing, just by looking at it. Tell me if I'm wrong. Probably built in the 20s or 30s.
Yeah, the dead giveaway on that is the span of the rafters.
Right.
And this rafter was split.
Yeah, so they put a new roof on there. They added more wood, so the original sheathing was spaced. Then they added the solid plywood sheathing on top of it, which added more weight. Then they probably added. Did they add? Was that tile they put on there? What did they put on?
I believe it was just an asphalt shingle.
Asphalt
But
shingle.
what was really interesting to me about this, because you can't put a tile on this roof, you need a minimum 2x6 rafter.
No, but if you did that, obviously it's going to split the.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting that they didn't even leave behind the old space sheathing. It looks like they replaced the space sheathing and put new plywood on top of it.
Right. Well, that's space sheathing under the plywood.
Yes.
So they just left it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what caused that. That could be from somebody standing on the roof. You'd think it looks like, I don't know, somebody jumping up and down, or maybe they put big bundles of the new asphalt comp just right on that spot. Maybe the weight just caused that rafter to buckle.
But what do you think? This easy fix? Recommend a general contractor, maybe sister up these rafters and beef up the roof framing?
Yeah, the roof needs some strengthening. The framing of the roof needs to be
Yeah.
definitely repaired.
Okay, so this is a finished attic. I think the dead giveaway is the ceiling height and also the rafter coming in through the doorway up there.
So they've added a room up in the attic area because the attic was a pretty large space and they wanted to add some square footage to the house.
Yep, and I think they did a pretty good job. They added some skylights up there. It looks nice and pretty. But there are some requirements when you do this, and I don't believe these requirements were met in this specific home.
No.
Essentially, you need 70% of the headroom.
So
to be
50% of the floor space in the room has to be above 7 feet.
Yes. I believe it's 70%, actually.
Okay. Well, I mean, whether it's 50 or 70,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see 7 feet anywhere here.
No.
So maybe at the peak. I mean, maybe right at the beam.
Yeah.
So that's something a home inspector needs to disclose and put it in their report and defer that to the buyer of the home.
Yeah. I would just make it an advisory, and let's see if they got this permitted or not, and make sure.
Well, it's not permitted.
Yeah. But okay. So we are looking at open frame stairs.
Yep. Unfinished
Frame, or unfinished stairway. Essentially, this is allowed in some jurisdictions as far as I'm concerned, but most do not allow it. It could be a trip hazard. They also typically they want this to be solid on the underside for.
So when you say it's not allowed, and we were talking about unfinished framing, what he's talking about is the open framing for fire.
Yes.
You have to have egress to come from upstairs to downstairs to get out to the front door.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's open framing and there's a fire under those stairs, I mean, you don't want the stairs to prevent you from getting down and out of the house and have to jump out the upstairs window.
Yep. And if I remember correctly, this was actually a house designed by a famous architect. If I don't remember his name.
Well, let's not drop any names on that.
Yeah, but no, but the point I'm trying to get at there is they went for aesthetics.
Yeah.
And this home, if I remember correctly, this home had a metal roof, concrete. It was very contemporary.
Very contemporary. Concrete floors, open framing, unfinished framing, all of that.
Yeah.
Very popular right now.
Yeah. Okay.
That kind of unfinished framing is not. I mean, damn.
Yeah. This was, I believe, this was a very old home.
Yeah, that needs to be rebuilt or refinished, or there's some work that needs to be done.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage to the wood, siding, leaks everywhere. I remember I showed up here and I was like, "It's just one of those homes." You're like, "Is someone playing a prank on me?"
Yeah, the termites have been eating on. Well, I mean, some wood boring insects, probably termites have been eating on that wood. You can look at the window seals and tell. You
But
know,
it was like this home was like everything was original to 1920s.
looks like the termites were eating on it and thought, man, this is kind of stale. Let's move on.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. I thought this was a neat picture. This is actually that same house. You could, if you look at the very far right side, I just realized this. You get your asbestos shingle siding.
yep. Those are asbestos shingles.
The roof is in pretty rough shape. Eaves are falling down, so they need a
Asbestos
roofer. Shiplap.
wood shiplap shingles.
Well, it's not even wood, but it's just
Well, I mean, it's
yeah,
but they look like wood. They kind of have a wood
they
texture
do.
to it.
The dead giveaway on those is the big rectangles, right?
Yeah, big rectangles. They're typically though they're more green in color or white in color.
Yeah.
These kind of have a grayish color to it.
And yeah, they need a roofer for sure, and that chimney's not tall enough. I had a field day with this one.
Yeah, everything's wrong.
Okay.
All right, so let me guess. Can I guess?
Mhm. I love the wide angle on the iPhone.
So we're going to talk about sizing.
Yes.
Okay.
So for those of you that don't know, there are minimum square footage requirements for a bedroom. And essentially, if you want to rent this out, you essentially the minimum square footage for a bedroom is 70 square feet.
And you have to have 7 feet one way minimum.
Yes.
Right.
And I don't believe we had 7 feet either way in this bedroom.
No.
It might be deceiving because of the wide angle on the phone, but yeah. And I just advised the client about that.
All right, so let's get back into furnaces here. I've been looking forward to this segment for quite some time. I've been wanting to talk about these. I've been waiting to hear some news about a house fire here, somewhere here in the Southland, but haven't heard anything yet. I haven't even.
So this furnace, I remember. I know we rarely see these anymore, but this week was special when I found this because I saw two
In 1 week.
in 1 week, both with the gas on.
Well, let me give you a little bit of information here. I did some of my research. There tens of thousands of these were made. So let's say 50,000 of these were actually made. That's probably not too far off. At least 20 to 30,000 of these were made, mostly sold and installed here in California from an Indiana-based company called Consolidated. They went bankrupt. They're no longer around. But they sold these furnaces to 30 different brand names. The names like Amana, Goodman, Carrier. I mean, just,
I know the most popular one being Premier.
Premier's gone too, though.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, BMP are just, they were installed predominantly from 1984 to 1992. If you want to know more information about these, go to the Consumer Product Safety Commission site. They have a list of the brand names and model numbers. However, based off what you've found and what I've found on our inspection experience, not all model numbers are on that list. Correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe there's some model numbers out there that have gotten outside of that list. And we believe that's because some of those Knox rods that these are famous for, which you'll talk about here in a minute, have gotten into other furnaces by, I don't know if they're just using them as parts or what it is. But anyway, we don't need to go too far with that, but I think it's a good rule of thumb just to go to the Consumer Product Safety Commission's website and you can check against your furnace if you got one.
All right. So back to the furnace. This is one of those furnaces that we were just mentioning. And typically what we see when we find these is we find the gas off and they're red tacked.
That's what you're seeing now.
That's what I usually see. Most people know that they're in the home, but in this case, the gas was still on. You could fire it up. So what I did was I turned the furnace off and I let them know.
Yeah, if you see these and you're an inspector, don't even turn them on.
Yeah.
If you're a home inspector and you see this, don't even turn it on. Just tell them no, it needs to be replaced because it does. There's no
It
fix.
needs to be replaced, and
There is no fix. I actually verified that today. I know you said that somebody listed on some site that there was a fix. That's incorrect. There is no fix for these Knox rods.
So what I found was this. If we go to the next slide, This was an older furnace from the 80s, I believe.
So that's a
and
Rudd.
it was what concerned me the most was the size. I was like, dang, this is a really big furnace. And I know
Right.
those other premier ones and the other ones, those tend to be really big.
Yep.
So the size is what alarmed me. And then I looked at the information plate and I saw that it was from the 80s.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I want to do my due diligence on this. And I looked up the model number, and I found a recall for this furnace. And the recall was regarding the Knox rod that was used in the other furnaces, but I don't believe this furnace was on that list.
Yeah. So this may not be a consolidated furnace, but maybe they did make these with the Knox rods.
But essentially, what I found in my research when I was looking up the information on this was that Rudd will come and replace the Knox rods with burner tubes.
Oh, really? Well, if Rudd will come out and do that, then that's essentially fixing the problem. But but there's not a fix to those burners.
No.
Those burners have to be replaced. And most people, I'd be surprised if you can get Rudd to come out and replace those burners. They're probably, I mean, they're probably going to want to just give you a new furnace.
Yeah.
Did you have a picture of the Knox rods?
I did not.
So you did not, but
I did not locate them on this furnace.
So Mackenzie, make sure you put up for the viewers the pictures of the Knox rods.
So this is the Knox rod right here.
Well, the Knox rods are inside. No, that is not the Knox rod. The Knox rods are the actual burners inside. And if Mackenzie has the photo up, what you'll see in that photo is you're going to see how the Knox rods just burst open. And
I have that photo.
Oh, you do have that photo.
Yes.
Okay, let's see that. There it is. All right. So you do have a picture of the Knox rods, and there you go. You see how they kind of just explode?
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? And so that flame now is just filling up that whole box there. You got gas, and you can see how it's even scorching the actual integrity of the burner itself. It's like a lighter, basically. Yeah, I mean, it's just wild. So, do you have another one? Okay, so there's the whole view of everything that's inside that burner box, and you can see 1, 2 have completely failed. The third one to the right there in the circle, it looks like it's getting ready to. It's been warped, but only the outer, the one on the left and the one on the right, actually look intact. And so, man, I mean, that's a good thing somebody found that, and somebody did not get hurt. But if you look in the back of the picture, you can see where the heat is actually affecting the housing, and you can see how it's all burned and looks like it's rusted now. And
yeah, I agree.
So this is just an old furnace. I don't know what kind of furnace this is. So, William, do you have any idea what kind of furnace this is?
This looks like this actually looks like it may be a steamer.
Yeah, it's interesting looking. But you can see how the furnace is in the attic, and if you do a good inspection, you go up there, you can tell it's a hazard. It needs to be shut down, turned off, and replaced. Because this thing is.
What's surprising is it looks like they've tried to fix it.
Yeah, it has new parts on it, huh?
They put a new gas regulator on it.
Yep.
This actually looks like a furnace that's missing housing.
Yeah, well, you can see the ducts are missing. Yeah, so furnaces are a thing, man.
Yep. Okay, so here we have a mini split. I believe this photo was submitted to us by Inspector Blake Sturkle. Yep,
and Blake Sturkle, Morrison Plus Property Inspections in the Inland Empire, Rancho Cucamonga, California. Appreciate that, Blake. Thank you. There are two air conditioners here. The one in the very front, that's a condenser. That's for a forced air fuel furnace. And then you have the mini split that's in the, I guess, I don't want to say the background area there. And it's just sitting on cinder blocks. That's not an approved way to be doing that. It should have a approved platform.
So 2 things that I'm noticing. I'm noticing one, the electrical disconnect is behind the condenser.
In the foreground.
And I'm also noticing that the mini split doesn't have its own disconnect. And instead it looks like they're feeding the conduit to the disconnect for the main condenser.
That's exactly correct. Exactly correct.
I think we have a photo of the interior of what that disconnect looks like.
Pull up the next photo, and there you go. And so by pulling this thing open and looking in there, aha, the mini split did not have a main disconnect for itself, did it? And
No, it
so
did
you
not.
look in here and go, hey. They double tapped onto the disconnect for the actual main condenser to the home.
Yep. Which that's wrong.
That is just, I mean, that's just
Yeah.
egregious.
Yeah. And they forgot to bolt the right side too of the of the disconnect box. All right. I think that's it for that though. So I like this photo that you sent me, and I remember my first time seeing spray foam insulation. I was like, what is going on in here?
Yeah, so let me explain where this photo's in the attic.
Yep.
In a lot of newer construction, what they're doing is instead of putting in fiberglass rolled batt insulation or a loose fill blown in fiberglass, they're actually blowing in this like a foam material and spraying it on the
sheathing,
on the sheathing, the rafters, and the ceiling. And when they do that, they're covering the vents, so the attic can't be ventilated.
Yep, and they do that intentionally.
And they do that intentionally, and that's fine. But now that it's not ventilated, it's a conditioned space. So, which essentially means that.
Essentially, what that means is that you can't penetrate that space now without compromising the thermal envelope of that attic space now.
Well, right. And so if you do, so a lot of these people that have a foam insulated attic is a conditioned space, and they have a forced air fuel furnace or a gas furnace in the attic, they can't have a low efficiency or mid efficiency furnace. It has to be a high efficiency furnace, so the vent can exhaust the products of combustion through the roof. And the only kind of material that's going to be approved to go through that
is it ABS or PVC?
Yeah, a plastic vent that doesn't get hot.
Yeah, and typically we don't even see those installed. They just go with the heat pump because it doesn't need an exhaust fan.
Right, exactly. And we'll explain what a heat pump is here in a little bit. But in this one, they tried to go ahead and do it anyway, right? And they have a heat collar there, and that's not a conditioned space because it's open.
Yep.
So you can't have it both ways.
Yep.
Ooh. This is just, I mean, man, you've done your job when you've caught this condition, William.
Yep. So what we're looking at here is an exhaust vent on a home for a gravity wall furnace, that on an inspection that I did a month ago. And essentially what you're looking at here at the bottom is a single wall, flexible vent that should be used for nothing other than maybe a bathroom exhaust fan, not a gas-fired hot appliance.
Not even a. Well, it could be used as a connector for a dryer.
Yeah,
but it's not allowed to go through the wall at all.
No, and I thought this was funny because I met the guy that installed this, and he had his contracting license.
Really?
And he was the tenant here, and he was remodeling his unit, and he had his contracting license. And he was like, "Yeah, I just installed that a couple days ago."
All proud.
And he was all proud about it. He was like, "I'm gonna finish it up. I got the connector right here up in the top right of the photo." And I was like, I just looked at him. I mean,
your brain's exploding.
We don't disclose our findings with anybody other than the buyer of the home.
Yeah, you can't be sitting there telling him what he's doing wrong and all that.
It looks like he's been using it. You could see the transite.
Yeah, hell yeah, you can tell he's been using it. Look at all the soot on the old vent.
Man. I was just like, I was dumbfounded.
Yeah, you know what it looks like to me? It looks like that there wasn't a vent at all before he tried to put that round thing in there, and it was just there. It was missing because it's all dark inside the wall there.
But yeah,
that's crazy.
I was like, this is a fire hazard. Told the buyer, and I'm like, up to you. You should probably tell that guy not to use it.
Yeah, that's hopefully they're not using that.
Yeah. So, somewhat HVAC, not really, but this was a above ground jetted tub or jacuzzi tub that I inspected.
So you inspect jet jacuzzi above ground jacuzzi tubs,
Yep.
just like it's like a pool or a spa.
Yeah, I inspect those as well.
And to do that, you got to take this panel cover off to inspect the equipment.
Yep. And
Don't you just hate doing that? How many screws were on that thing?
actually, I think this one was pretty easy. It only had like 5 or 6.
Yeah, oh my gosh, you get
But the worst is when they use those star key ones.
yeah. You gotta like pull out special equipment to take it off.
But essentially, what we're looking at here is the heater for the spa, and you can see it's completely melted on the right hand side where the heating element should be, or you can see the heating element in this case. And
What do you think's going on there, William? I mean, that thing should be designed to.
Well, first, I was surprised I got them to pay me because I sold this at the inspection, and I was like, I want to inspect this, and they're like, why? I'm like, because it's good. These things do have problems. Just because they're prefabricated doesn't mean they don't have issues. And I looked at and I saw that there's no water in the jacuzzi tub.
Oof.
And what I think is someone turned this thing on and ran it dry. And so the heating element got too hot since there's not water flowing through the
and it
system.
just burned it up.
And
Is that any electric heater? It's electric, huh? There's no
yes.
gas going.
Yeah, no,
to this
there's
thing.
no gas. This was all electric. But
So those are heating elements just got superheated because there was no pump to keep things a little bit cooler, huh?
yeah, no water. And but yeah, I believe this thing was included in the sale, and the guy could have been paying for junk.
Yep. You just probably saved him about 10, 20 grand.
Yeah, that's why inspections are important. So now this is gonna segue into a little bit about water damage, and so what we're looking at here is a common condition that we see. This is what I call cupping. You could see the floor starting to bubble up.
Well, I don't know that I'd categorize that as cupping. I would just say moisture damage because the wood planks there are expanding underneath the laminate.
Yep. And for most of those that aren't aware, this is a condition that could be caused by a number of things. It could be something flooded in the home. They're over mopping with excessive amounts of water. There could be a slab leak here. When we see this is something home inspectors typically want to charge and bring the thermal camera out and assess it a little bit further.
Or moisture, do an additional service, maybe do some moisture testing and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's blistering pretty bad.
So this is a fun one.
So this could be tricky because it looks like they water the yard a lot, and that grass looks like it's well watered. And sometimes if you're overwatering the yard, it can fill the crock with water.
Yep.
But that's not always the case, and so.
So what could happen is there could be a leak at the distribution piping coming underneath the soil through the meter up into the home.
Yeah, and we catch that quite often.
And yeah, we see it every now and then. What's really important for the homeowner to assess is where the leak is coming from, if it is leaking, if it's before or after the meter. Because after the meter, as far as I'm concerned, the responsibility is on the homeowner. Before the meter, the responsibility is on the city.
Typically.
Yep.
Yep. Good catch. Well, do we have a roof leak or what's going on? Was that a bathroom up there?
There was a bathroom above this.
Bathroom above there.
This
okay.
was like I don't even want to get into this whole situation. This was like a weird hotel. It was in a residential neighborhood. It was a home with it was only a home on the block with additional units. They had about 8 units, some without bathrooms, kitchenettes, they're Airbnb.
Okay.
A bunch of the units the place was very poorly managed.
Okay.
And what we're looking at here is we're looking at a leak, moisture damage, holes in the ceiling, exposed wiring coming through that ceiling. I'm very concerned about the water corroding those wires, and I'm recommending a general contractor just for the plethora of issues that could be going on here.
Yeah. Water and electricity don't like to go well together. You don't want it leaking right over the high voltage, unprotected wiring right there, maybe even into that light fixture.
Yep. And then we got remediation involved as well. So
yeah, there could be mold in the ceiling, and it could be a very unhealthy condition.
Yep. This is our last photo, and I learned this from you. And I remember when the day that you told me, what's going on here? Dude, I thought trees to lean, they grow every which way to Sunday.
I mean, they do sometimes on flat ground. You might see a tree that kind of grows funky, but most of the time, if you're in the middle of the forest, you're going to see trees growing straight up.
Yep.
Right? Unless they're falling over. And what would cause a tree to fall over? And that might be the ground moving, or if it's on a slope or a hill. So when we inspect, we're very hilly here in SoCal. And in many parts of the country, and neighborhoods are built in hilly areas, right, where the lots are sloped, or you're on a hillside or something like that. And if you're an inspector, you want to look for trees that are leaning, because that's an indication there may be soils issues.
Yep.
So if you look at this particular one, they shored up the soil there with a retaining wall or a planter wall.
And it looks like it's leaning, like the roots are trying to get underneath the home.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So, that's a pretty big and heavy tree. It looks like they keep it well pruned and maintained. But what was your recommendation on this house? What else did you find?
I don't believe I saw it really causing any damage to the structure just yet, but my recommendation was to have an arborist come.
So this was an arborist call.
Yeah, I made the call just because.
You didn't see any geotechnical issues to call the geotechnical engineer?
I did not.
So, what are you going to do? If everything is good with the house and the soils and the land, an arborist can come out and take a look at the tree and maybe tell you if the soil isn't good for the tree or something like that. But
yeah, I'm not going to name any names, but I think this was for a celebrity, and they had the money. They didn't really care. They just cut the tree down.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's a fun one. But I think we just got a telephone pole on one of our past podcasts that was leaning like that too.
Yeah.
And a chimney. That's right. That last chimney short that really took off was leaning as well.
Yeah.
So, all right. Hey, these are great today, William. Thanks for bringing these photos.
Yep. All right.
All right. So, everybody, thank you again for tuning into our podcast. We'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, hit the notifications button, and leave us your comments. We definitely like replying to your comments, and we enjoy doing this for you. So, see you on the next one.